Let me tell you something. You're doing a great job. Doing a great job. But it's a good one. Doing a great job. Everything's fine and we are shipping on time. Everything's fine and we are shipping on time. Everything's fine and we are shipping on time. Everything's fine and we are shipping on time.
Welcome to Everything's Fine. We're shipping on time. Hear the stories behind your favorite games from the creators who built them with your hosts Rick Neal and Gary Geddes. Now let's start the show.
Hey, Rick, how are you today?
Hey, welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Everything is Fine and We're Shipping on Time.
I want to point something out. You're wearing a hat to cover up your shiny head. Is that correct?
No, I have hair, but it's just bad hair day.
Okay.
But I do have a shiny head.
I know. Last time you had it, you were worried about your shiny head, and I told you you don't need to worry about your shiny head.
My hat is covered in my shiny head, but it's an EA hat. Trying to be old school.
Well, that's good because our guest is a former EA. Yeah. So talk to me about who we're talking to today, Rick.
We're going to talk to my good friend and brother, Mark Day, who I had the opportunity of at Electronic Arts. When he joined, there was only a double cube, and he was my cube mate.
What?
And I had really
I did not
bad
know that.
gas back then. I was not healthy. I was big, fat Rick, and it was bad, and he shared a cube with me. However, we became the dynamic duo of the Media Lab, and we got to do some amazing stuff. He went off and did the Wing Commander stuff. I did the interactive movie, which you're well aware of.
Yes, little
and
psychic
that was
detective.
Hot shit at EA. We were on the cutting edge with CD-ROMs.
Yes.
Yeah. So good friend Mark Day.
Mark Day. Hey, welcome, Mark Day.
It was Mark Day.
Hello.
He's like royalty. Shelley Day was his wife.
Dude.
She was also at Electronic Arts, and both of his children are in the industry.
Yeah.
So he's a perfect archetype of how do you keep your family into the video game industry.
The family business.
Money.
Yeah.
It's in the family.
And I bet you
Rick,
tried
what
to
did
talk
Mark
your children out of
invent,
it.
though? Didn't Mark invent something? Because all our guests have invented something so far.
Mark did invent. Yeah, he invented the rewind button on the VCR. And before that, you just had to throw away the tape.
Okay, got it.
No, actually, Gary, what I did invent, it might be an overstatement. I came up with the way that before we had good 3D cards, everything was sprites. And so we created sort of multi-dimensional sprites, meaning we literally put Michael Jordan, and we set up cameras, 4 cameras, on one, kind of one half of the court, all in blue screen at the time, I believe it was. Anyways, we shot him, and that way, as he passed through the space, the sprite of him would have these multiple angles, and it was smoothed out by the game, and it was a reasonable approximation of 3D.
Yeah, that's like a precursor to like bullet
and we
time.
used that. I mean, that got used for Jordan in Flight.
Yeah.
Shaq Fu, another remarkable
Classic.
Title. And I mean, so yes, we use, and
But
Tiger
before
Woods
you
golf.
joined EA, you were an Emmy Award-winning film, right?
Emmy
At
Award,
ABC News.
Northern California Emmy nominated editor.
I like
But
to say
thank
Emmy
you
Award-winning.
for blowing so much sunshine up my shorts. I appreciate that.
That's impressive. I gotta say, Commander is like a magnus opus. Like the work you guys did on that product, was mind-blowing. That was just a totally new experience in gaming, I thought at the time.
Yeah, that was the most fun. There's been a lot of great people and a lot of great projects, but that was kind of the one that was, it was really special.
I mean, a special calling card. Were you producer and video director on that? What was your role?
I started with EA in was probably 84. I'm looking at Rick's hat, it says 82. So that was the founding time. In 84, my ex-wife, Shelley Walters, she had a job. She got a job at EA out of the San Francisco Chronicle, out of the paper. I mean, it was that. And
The
went to work, I
classified ad.
believe. Yeah, I think it was either Monty Finnefrock or Don Dagla. I was working at ABC. My career path to that point, I got a broadcasting degree from San Francisco State. I wanted to be an editor. I was an editor after, paying my dues, being a dubbing tapes in the middle of the night in South San Francisco. So I was working at KGO. I was at EA a lot. And so I became friends with a lot of people during that period just because of obviously because of my wife at the time. And anyways, so I got involved. And at some point, there weren't many people. We're talking 50, 60 people. And the offices were up by Burrell's in the hills of the Bruno. I think that's the Bruno up there. I think it was like they needed videos to go to at the time CES, which was kind of what E3 used to be. It was twice a year. It was in Vegas in the winter and in Chicago in the summer.
Right.
Anyways, it was like, hey, Shelley's husband's in video. Let's talk to him. And so I literally worked with Tripp and Bing, kind of the two founders of the company, doing videos, and the other thing, I came up with a way to capture video directly out of like the Apple II and the Commodore 64, because although they all had video out or RF signal out, it wasn't really video. It was missing a lot of things. So anyways, a way to capture that, because prior to that, people were just pointing the camera at a television screen. So anyway, so I started doing that. And that went from doing stuff for EA. That was the beginning of something called EA TV. It was not like nowadays, I don't think I could have done what I did because they would have me on some kind of exclusive deal.
Right.
But pretty soon I was doing this twice a year, as far as the frequency videos. I was working for, and a lot of these companies, for viewers, they don't exist anymore, but big companies at the time, Broderbund, Epix, Taito, Capcom. They're still around in certain ways, but at one time they were, particularly during the cartridge wars, the Genesis and Super Nintendo timeframe. So anyways, it was great. I really enjoyed it until I got bored. And so a lot of my close friends tell me I have career ADD.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I get bored. I get bored in my own companies sometimes. So my history has been kind of take a job 4 or 5 years, go outside, do something on my own, take a job. So anyways, all of that led to, and met anyway, a lot of those original We See Farther artists that we all know, Maynard, Paul Ritchie, John and Ann Westfall, just those original folks, Dan Bunton or Danny Bunton,
Bill Budge.
Bill Budge.
Yeah,
Ray Toby,
Sky Fox, which is a good example of how to do like fake 3D with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was his big claim to fame. Anyways, did that, eventually, I took a job. I started a little game company with a friend. We actually shipped a product, and it was kind of that we were, shrink wrapping it on our own. And I think we sold about a dozen copies maybe. But this was also back in a time when if you sold 100,000 units, you were a huge hit. It was big, and there was also a time when, $50, $60 a title was pretty normal. Anyways, I've tried it, but my career kind of bounced around like this.
So that was all before you started at EA?
Oh yeah. No, I didn't join EA until I was 32 or 33.
Was that like 1995?
It was before 95 because we were doing the Wing Commander stuff in 95.
So it was when we started the Media Lab, right? Is why that's
how I got brought in. I met with a guy, Rod Swanson, anyways, at EA.
Legend.
Really good guy. Yeah, CDs were coming in, and I think not just EA, but all entertainment publishers were like, crap, we have this giant storage medium, and that means consumers are going to expect it to have something on it, not just, a small amount of game and data. So video became one of the ways to go about it, and that led to video in the sports titles, video
introduction on Madden was a big deal.
Yeah. No,
spent
absolutely.
a lot of money on that.
So anyways, I got brought in to help create the Media Lab. My background was post-production, and that's essentially what the Media Lab was a post-production house. Right. But EA did not cheap out on that. God, I wish I was as brash now as I was then, because I just remember the plan at the time by the powers that be were going to be, I think, like 5 or 6 Quadra. God, help me out, Rick.
Quadra 950s.
Thank you. Quadra 950s with Targa cards. And I just did the math, and their goal was 1 million frames they wanted to capture the first year.
Right.
And it would have taken like 25 years just doing the math. I mean, you just looked at, okay, grabbing these frames. So we came up with a much more high-tech and expensive solution, which involved
with SGIs.
An SGI computer that was about $1 million computer. But again, D1, which at the time was still standard resolution, but a digital format. So that led to us doing a lot of this kind of work for EA internally. Greg, guys, you guys know
all the 3DO titles, Road Rash, all that stuff.
All the 3DO,
right?
Yeah.
We wrote our Cinepack compressor.
And Michael Becker's, what was that called? The space game he did on the 3DO. Shockwave. Wow. You got a good memory, man. And that actually was kind of, for me, a precursor. Shot on a blue screen, I believe. Synthetic sets, live action. And that is how they kind of did the interstitial storytelling between the missions. And then, it was great. It was really fun to be part of something I'd always been kind of adjacent too. So I was really excited to be there. Totally bought into the star performers.
Talk about that for a minute, because you saw the environment that Tripp and Monty and those guys intentionally created back then, which was a meritocracy, but a family meritocracy. You just wanted to perform, but that kind of, some people called it a cult back then. But talk about that for a minute, because you got to see that from the beginning, right?
Yeah, you go to a place, and my work experience at that point had been in post houses, television station, and now suddenly I'm walking around a place, and this is back when the Nerf balls were literally like huge part of the culture, constantly being tossed around. Tracer gun wars. The original laser tag from Worlds of Wonder came out, and there were huge battles. Somehow Paul Grace always led be it paintball or laser tag. He was always at the forefront of that. Yeah. Anyways, it was just a fun environment to be around, and made friends outside of just that environment. And a lot of those folks either went on to big careers, or at least certainly are kind of looked at as founders. Chris Crawford, people, kind of deep thinkers about gaming.
RJ Michael.
Shays was there. It was a neat place. And then the leadership was also very unique. So it was just the company meeting was, you couldn't miss it, besides the fact there was beer and pop and all the other shenanigans that went on. But seeing the Bing and Tripp show for that company meeting, and it was a time when, well, hell, you guys were where we could all fit in that big conference room.
Right.
We used to, the white elephant sale from IT, where you just go in and take old monitors and stuff. That big conference room.
Right.
But we all fit in there.
Right.
And that's another, didn't even spatially think about that. It's like, you probably couldn't do that at EA today.
No, in the gym, maybe.
But the other thing is that there wasn't many places for those kind of brains to go work, right?
Nope.
So you did have the Danny Buntons and the Ray Tobys in the beginning, and the Chris Crawfords and those.
Well, and Jim Rushing was
there
also,
because that was the only place they could find a way to make a living on some of the interesting
so
stuff.
I was there kind of with that first generation of folks, and then that's after. Richard was there, obviously. Although Rich at the time, I'm not because Rich is hugely accomplished, but he was hooking up the Ethernet.
He was the TechServe guy like me. I started with TechServe.
You and Ted Lamar.
Yeah, me and Ted Lamar.
Okay, because you were selling film for AGFA.
No, I was a technical service representative. I would go out and fix the processors and cameras and the blowback camera at Siliconics and the X-ray machine at Sandia Labs and the processors at Industrial Light and Magic, and then every other print shop and newspaper. But Macintosh became the input device for the first digital image setter, and AGFA bought that company. Being an Apple geek, I went to Apple school right away to fix Apples so I could be the field service representative to go help you with your laser output device. That's how I got my job at EA, only because I knew how to fix Macs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. That actually, we've known each other a long time. That's knowledge I didn't have. I just figured you were running around selling, film.
No, I was never into selling until way later in my career.
Okay. But at any rate, it was a very fun place to be around, super high energy. So gaming was my hobby. It was very much my hobby. Had been my first computer game experience was a teletype in 8th grade. where you could play, it was like
Hunt the Wumpus.
Hunt the Wumpus. And there was I think it was called Star Trek. It was but
yeah.
It would literally print out a piece of paper. You'd look, it would, and then went to UC San Diego for the first 2 years of my college career. And a close friend, still a close friend, he had access to the computer lab. And so that was, Empire, the original Empire on PDP-11. Right. And Colossal Cave or Adventure, whatever you want to call it. Oh, Rogue.
Rogue.
Those were just like, and that kind of continued. I didn't know you could do that with a computer. I thought it was just math, and that really sucked me in. So I somehow turned my hobby into my career path because it really was my hobby. I mean, I had one of everything. Had an Atari, you'd buy a machine just because you wanted to play a particular game that was only available on that machine.
Was the key back then. Yeah, you upgraded your PC to play the new games.
Oh, yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day. Because most people nowadays like audio card. What?
Right. What? Video card.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't have a Sound Blaster 16. I only have a Sound Blaster 8, so I can't play that game.
Yeah, you can't do the MIDI output, man. When actually, Wing Commander was one of those. That MIDI output.
Tell us how you got the call to join the Wing Commander. Sure. How did you get the call?
I would say Chris is still following that, trying to sell hardware. It's like, to play my game, you're going to need kind of the top of the line. Anyways, I found myself, so I got sucked into the Media Lab, which is a blast. At the time, at some point in there, my first marriage disintegrated, and an employee who actually I knew from Activision, the old Activision, Mediagenic times, which is Nancy, my wife.
Yes.
I came in there to see somebody about a project, and I was passing through because I wanted to say hi to Nancy Fong. And so I stopped by that department, and Nancy, my wife, Nancy Weissman, was there. And it was that classic, what are you doing here? Yeah. And we went on a date that night and kind of been hanging out ever since. I think we just had, my daughter just turned, it'll be 31. It'll be our 31st anniversary coming here in July.
Congrats. That's amazing.
So,
that's great.
Anyways, and my wife was a much better employee. I think she was at EA for freaking 20 some odd years. Yeah, really long time, which is awesome.
Well, everyone's trying to catch up with Nancy Fong.
Yeah, no one can.
So anyways, we
did a great job, didn't we? We did a great job making a company that they could sell.
Oh, we did. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that check, and
there's no check.
Although I'm sure my ex-wife kind of curses me, although she did very well she was also in the business, as you guys probably are aware, and she did Humongous Entertainment, and they did very well with that. I believe they sold it to GT initially, but still, we had initial, 13,000 shares of EA stock. Well, and we sold it to buy our first home.
So, of course you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all sold our stock. Well, at least I did.
So tell me how you got from the Media Lab to your role in Wing Commander and Jordan, because you led a lot of that video work,
Jordan was before the Media Lab and all that. I did that game with Mike Suarez, if you remember Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So that was a while ago.
The brothers Suarez.
Exactly. And that was, I think still the best package that EA ever did was Jordan in Flight.
The marketing, Karen Schulman, that was great. She crushed it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think I still have one floating around here somewhere. So anyways, how that happened, I was doing the Media Lab, and I had done a test shoot. I believe, I was trying to kind of remember this. I believe it was for 688 Attack Sub. It was a Paul Gray shoot. And I just wanted to do, I had a conversation with Chris Roberts about, because I knew him sort of tangentially, because I also independently had done video work for Origin for the CES videos. And so I was going to do this because I thought, no, the way to do this is with blue screen, and I'm doing a blue screen shoot. And so I basically piggybacked on Paul's shoot, and God bless him, meaning Paul, I did this test and we ran a little over, and I know it cost an extra 25 grand or something like that. And I had to go hat in hand and mea culpaing to Paul, and I think he said something along the lines, it was basically, I was forgiven, and as long as my mistakes aren't more than my salary, it's probably okay. It was like, oh, geez, man, thank you. I appreciate that. So that proved that sort of production pathway for Chris. And I kind of got sent to keep an eye on him. That's really what happened. And I guess it's a classic case of me, what was that, Stockholm Syndrome? I fell in with Chris is what ended up happening. Yes. And it was really fun. Wing Commander 3, I was really just there as kind of an advisor, more of a technical advisor as far as how it was shot.
Okay.
Sadly, I mean, the grand plan, right, was to come in with all the sets, all the 3D sets, all set and ready. None of them were. So we were essentially just pulling maths. So essentially pulling black and white images along with the full color video images, and you could line them up and then change the background. This is something now you can do on your desktop.
Right.
Like that. It doesn't, But at the time, it took a very specialized box called an Ultimat.
And what could go wrong in such a project?
Now, anyways, that's, got involved in a great deal in the post-production of that, because it took a lot of post-production work, because we didn't just bang it out at the time. One of the drawbacks there is, certainly at the time, you'll never get as good a mat as you get from the back of the camera, even if you're putting it onto digital tape. And so, yes, it took a lot of work to get it. Although, like I have copies now of the original Wing 3 footage, and the original, and another project I worked on was making a DVD version of Wing Commander 4. And so I have all those, which are much, we're not using some munged down codec to decode the video. So it looks really good. And then I've taken it and run it through AI to bring it up to a 2K image, 4K image. Wow, we really weren't as good as we thought we were. Basically, NTSC, the low resolution of NTSC, it hides a multitude of sins.
Yeah, it's nice and warm.
Yeah.
So at any rate, got involved with Wing 3. Wing 3 was huge. I think it shipped on, it's like 5 CDs or something like that.
Something crazy like that. Yeah.
Right.
And it really was, to me, I still think it's one of the finest examples of an interactive movie that has been created. And I'd love to take another swing at that, because I think you could do it you could create one of those a lot cheaper now than creating all the content via 3D.
Oh my gosh.
AI may be changing that, but so
another
that
topic
led to,
we'll get to.
I had a lot of things to say to Chris about what he was up to. I was right most of the time. And so when it came time to do Wing Commander 4, he asked me not only to produce the video, but to produce the game, which you may go, whoa, film video to producing an interactive title. It's really similar. The only thing, it's harder with a game because we tend to reinvent the technology every time we do a new game. With film, I mean, we were working in a medium that's been around for quite some time. Yes, it's always advancing. But back then, using shooting in video for film in high res was just kind of an inkling. Nowadays, you can shoot a decent movie on a single lens reflex camera that's digital
on your phone.
Put it
on your phone.
So, I wish it had. I wish we'd explored it a little more. But really, 3D. 3D engines, the ability to they're being supported by video cards. It really changed the way we made games. So,
if we had all that technology right now. Back then, AI and Epic Engine to do all that, right?
Yep.
It makes total sense.
But anyway, it was a really fun time. Wing Commander 4 was, it was ridiculously huge. At the time, I think the budget ended up around $12 million just for the film.
And back then, that was massive.
A lot of money.
That was a butt ton of money. Yeah. I still remember, it's like, Larry came down, Larry being the CEO, Larry Probst, a guy I actually hugely respect. 2 guys came down, but at separate times. Larry came down, didn't kind of wrangle Chris, because Chris, as the director, he was making his opus.
Yeah.
Then Stan McKee, I don't know if you remember the CFO, he came down, didn't really change anything. And then Bing came down. I'm not sure. I think Bing might have made it worse because we were arguing. I was arguing with Chris at that time. He wanted something called a tulip crane, which is you put the camera on a 30-foot crane. Yeah, well, it's a boom arm. And then the operator's down here. And it was for this big opening scene in the Intergalactic Senate, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, it was fairly expensive and not necessarily needed. But when Bing left, he had his tulip crane. That's all I know. But it was really a fun shoot and God, a wild time personally, because during that time, my daughter was born. Nancy and I had decided to get married simply because we had decided to create another human being. And so we're going to get married on the 4th of July. which is another story because it seemed like such a great idea, a really dumb idea. Because, do we ever
you won't
celebrate
forget
it?
your
No.
anniversary that way.
Yeah. I can always remember it, but I don't celebrate it because we're doing family stuff. We're doing other stuff. But anyways, and I literally, the shoot, because it ran long because of the aforementioned grandiose opus nature of it. So my wedding came and I kind of like went home for the weekend, got married, went with my bride and my child and the rest of her family up to Tahoe where we were going to honeymoon and promptly left a day later and went back down. So God bless her. My wife was very kind.
Very supportive.
Dealing with that. So anyway, it was a great experience, and the games, both of the games, did extremely well. And
which is good because expectations were high.
Yeah,
and they were formative times. They were making a genre. There'd be no Mass Effect. There'd be no Star Wars Republic without those games.
It was very fun and made some good friends. Made only a couple of actors because actors are interesting cats.
Yeah.
But just had a really nice time. And a lot of the craftspeople we worked with, be it the Ultimate artist, costumes designers, those kind of remained friends all this time. And
then did you stay on with Origin or what did you do next?
No, I came back. So Chris decided to leave. Chris Roberts, the creator of Wing Commander, he went off to start his own company. I actually got offered his gig in Austin, and I like Austin a great deal. It's beautiful, but it is in the middle of Texas, and so I didn't really. I like it here in California a great deal, particularly our Bay Area. So. Yeah, so I decided not to do that, but was involved in the creation of Wing Commander Prophecy, produced that. Sadly, at the time, the tides were changing, and so our budget, we got greatly reduced. I think we shot that entire thing for $1 million and a much smaller story. But we did have a brand new engine where before everything was the bitmap engine. This was truly a 3D engine. So I think gameplay-wise, we were better. Sadly, story-wise, and sort of the epic space opera nature, it declined a little bit. But it, again, fun. And then after that, so now I left EA. I'd been there 5 years. I was fully vested. I didn't see anything really interesting. I mean, and I had an opportunity at that point. It was still Wing Commander related. Murray Allen, another, epic,
amazing,
just an amazing, I had run studios, played saxophone and with Star, and just a really good guy, and had just tons of wisdom in the audio world to share. Really helped turn their audio setup there with Ken Felton and, into a world class. Mark Farley, absolutely world-class audio operation. And anyways, he got charged with turning the Wing Commander titles, now again, technology shifting, going from CD to DVD, which allowed us to, let's take the assets and put them up at full, basically make it the same quality you would get on your, on watching a DVD movie at home. So we did that. I took that outside and that was my first really successful experience bootstrapping a company off of it. It was a big enough contract, and we went from there. And then it was during the EA.com thing, we also helped come up with a way to play Sega Genesis games, and basically Sega Genesis games on the web, which I thought was great. And that grew. We got a contract with Universal. At one point, we had probably 70 employees.
And you had a team in Austin too, right?
We had a huge, actually, because, that's one of my downfalls is most of my relationships in that area were in Austin, Texas. So guys like Tony Marone and Frank Rohn. So we started that. And then I sold it to a company called Kalisto. And then Kalisto promptly, kind of during the .com crash, they promptly went out of business. I couldn't sell my stock fast enough. I feel like, hang on. So I moved this chair today from back there because I hate this chair. And now I remember why. As I sit in this chair, I'm doing the Michael Becker. I'm sinking. Now, does that camera, is it smart enough? God, it is. Look at that.
It is. It's going to follow you around.
Yeah, man, it's sunk about
Where are you guys going? Where are you going?
Elevator going down.
Where are you going?
to really set the stage with Michael, and yet there is this wisp of cigarette smoke just going up the screen.
So hilarious.
That guy,
Here comes
Michael
Rick.
Michael is still, he's still just an amazing, I call him, he's a genius. I'm very impressed.
It goes back to what I was saying. Back then, there was not many places for people like that to get hired.
Yeah, I mean, he worked on Teddy Ruxpin. That's
oh my
how
God.
long he's
Wow.
He did all the Shockwave, all the design for that, right? He
well,
worked
think
on
about the Strike series.
He worked on the Strike series. He did the Jordan Adventure. I mean, he worked on everything. It was crazy. Him and Amy Hennig. So
yeah, and he was he is the only thing he needs is an editor, because he'll literally disappear. He will disappear for a weekend and come back with a 50-page document, to which I, in kind of jaded, go, okay, so there's going to be 3 pages and then 47 pages of filler. It's not. And it's like, wow, this is awesome, Michael. We can never possibly make this game.
Right.
But because it's just so huge, I mean, it would cost a fortune. But do you remember, like, the Middle Earth he created in a war room?
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, I owe him a phone call. Actually, I need to call him. So thank you for the reminder. So I'm sorry, I've digressed myself. My digression disease only gets worse as I'm getting older.
You've done a great job so far.
These are the stories we want to know.
Yeah. I think you should tie it all into what you're doing now.
I mean,
and how
what
you
I'm doing,
think the new process of making games in the industry and how that's different than my theory is we're back to the 80s again in that pioneer spirit, but the opportunities are much greater.
I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, I have just, since then, I'm just, since the Wing Commander stuff, and working, I had my own company twice, sold it once, sold another one, had another company that I set down gently. I think I'm prouder of that. It was not like employees showed up at the door and the doors, there was a chain.
Yeah.
Everybody got paid out. Everybody got placed with the exception of one artist. But we made this digression into serious gaming. A friend, a college friend, was working at DARPA as a program manager. And so anyways, got involved in taking, traditional gaming technologies and utilizing them in that space, which for a period of time they really liked. I mean, instead of building a giant piece of heavy iron, multi-bazillion-dollar simulator, we would do what they call desktop simulators. Case in point would be we did one for the A-10. The A-10 is the Warthog. It's been around since Vietnam. A very odd-looking plane that's practically indestructible, and it's a tank killer, essentially. And at any rate, they were finally moving from Steam dials to multifunction displays. The only way they had to train pilots on that was to actually have them sit in the cockpit and, burn fuel. And so we created one that was a really good flight sim, too. I wouldn't want someone training to fly the aircraft on, but it was a really good flight sim and had the multifunction displays. And that contract, it really, when I say I was the VP of product development at that point, a guy named Carl Norman, a really talented producer, particularly in the military space, was working on that. I think at one time, he worked with Gilman Louis on Falcon. Spectrum. Yeah. And he and I had worked together. God, what was it? The Top Gun movie. I just heard about, there was a game, Top Gun Hornet's Nest. And again, it was a video gig. We shot it out on what's the name of the aircraft carrier in Oakland Estuary?
Is that the Hornet?
Nimitz.
The Hornet. No, it's the Hornet.
The Hornet.
Yeah.
And we shot it on the Hornet when the Hornet really wasn't open to the public. It literally had grass growing out of the flight deck. But
because you're still delivering a user experience, it's just a completely different funding model, right? Like the funding for those projects has to be complicated.
Well, totally. Yes. It was easy for us because we had an in with DARPA.
Yeah.
That's what easy. We still had to do the whole proposal and, sit on pins and needles and wait. But if you have someone championing you, I think it's, obviously just like any project, if you know somebody, at least to get in the door. And so, that part of my career probably lasted around 10 years. I then, after Total Immersion went away, literally heard about a project. They'll do these, it's kind of like an open house, but you go to a conference, essentially, that's just it has the program manager pitching what the project is. Oh. And then you kind of figure out are we interested in this? Can we provide value? And yeah, so we got one of those, and once again, bootstrapped another company, which was Void Alpha, was my last company.
Yeah.
And then Void Alpha was around for around 7 years, and we had a number of DARPA contracts. Tried, VR. VR is fun to work in. I enjoyed that. Didn't make dick. Didn't, as far as.
Has anyone made money in VR?
I don't think anyone has. No, but so. That was fun. I mean, we didn't just work on, wars. We worked on high altitude sickness because a lot of soldiers in Afghanistan trucking around. So literally it was Unreal 3, I think. But anyways, it was like how to spot it, how to treat it. We did
facial recognition stuff for, maybe I'm not supposed to talk
I'd forgotten.
about it.
Yes. You're talking about the cues. What was his name? Paul Ekberg, I think.
Right.
Basically the human lie detector kind of thing. You have these micro expressions that give you, we did a thing in training on that. So you could see if someone was, in theory, being not truthful. So a lot of projects. And that eventually, though, when the other thing is at DARPA, it's designed, which I think is a really good thing for us as taxpayers and citizens. It's kind of a foreign done, meaning you come in there, you're a program manager. Oh man, believe me, you're a big swinging dick. You have power, you have a big budget. But after 4 years, when your project's over, time to go back to academia or wherever it is you came from. DARPA, right, is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They are the ones who indeed created the internet. It was called ARPANET. It only went to colleges and then eventually went beyond it. But they also do, they do blood replacement products for the warfighter. I was at a demonstration of a robot ectoskeletal. Like right out of sci-fi, where a warfighter could literally leap to the top of a second-story rooftop. It was craziness, And then they also have their DARPA challenges, which I have a bunch of coins from. Yeah, here's one right here for a project we worked on. It was a DARPA cyber challenge. This is, at the end of a mission or at the end of a, job well done, contributors get a coin.
Is it like a star performer award from the 80s?
It is very much a government star performer.
Yeah.
Is it a cult like EA was?
I would say it's kind of.
It is.
And so DARPA essentially is the R&D department of the R&D for the Department of Defense. So they do all kinds of things. They became less interested in software and more interested in what we would call kinetic projects, meaning things that go bang.
Yeah.
And so we shut the company down very successfully. I was sitting on the sidelines a little bit, got involved in that comedy project, kind of going back to production roots with Richard and Amazon, or I should say Twitch.
Yeah, right.
And so I did that for, I was just kind of picking up projects here and there. Then I decided I needed to find a job. Didn't feel like doing something on my own. I called up an old friend, Lyle Hall. I don't know I know you know Lyle, Rick. Lyle ran a studio called Heavy Iron, which he had acquired.
He was with you way back when at Daylight, right? Doing SpongeBob.
Yes, he used to said, Lyle, when he was 24 or something, he was young. I know he was very young. Daylight. I put his desk in my office with me because, we are all, when we were young, are just silly. I still remember showing up like at noon one day for work. Dude, where you been? U2's new CD released. He had to be in line at Best Buy. Okay. But I literally put him in. So he was in my office so I could reach out. God, the camera's so narrow, but I could reach out and go, Lyle, get off the internet.
Yeah. Focus
on this. Great guy. Really. Got to hand it. He's somebody who took that studio, bought it from THQ, which I think really meant he just took over all the liabilities when THQ had their difficulty, and ran it for another 20 years. And
that's great.
I used him for 2 projects. Yeah, I used Heavy Iron for 2 projects.
So I called him really just saying, hey, you're a big swinging dick now. Can I use you as a reference on my resume? And he went, oh, you're looking? Yeah. And I started working for him like 2 days later. So that was interesting and fun. Although I did not like working as production partner, outsourced, engineering, that kind of thing. No, not great, because you had no sense of ownership. Clients were at times difficult. So anyways, I didn't like that very much. But again, discovered just right after I took that job, I discovered I was sick. Bottom line is I needed a liver transplant. And I had all these genetic factors. I was a drinker, not a heavy drinker. I feel kind of cheated by that, actually. I was kind of a beer and a shot guy at the end of the day. But apparently that was too heavy for my body and my liver. That and fatty liver, all that kind of just a number of things. Even a weird genetic thing they found out. Had a lot of people ask me, so what did they do with the old liver? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. What? Well, they do stuff with they send little bits of it off to these research places, and they actually report back to your doctor. And in this case, I think I built up too much iron in my liver, which also did damage to it. Bottom line is, I went away from my time at Heavy Iron to get a liver transplant, and I'm very blessed that it's been 2 years since that occurred. And so I was off for 6 months. And, you know, I can complain saying I didn't really like working for Keywords, but wow, God bless them and their insurance. My transplant, I think, was $3,500 out of pocket. And I saw those bills. I mean, we all know that aspirins don't cost $10, and, you know, a wipe isn't. But
surgery cost a lot of money.
It was over $1 million. It was over $1 million.
Wow.
So I got back. I went back to work 6 weeks later. And when I got back, you could, you know, when somebody farted, you know, like the room, it's like I left, there were 6 or 7 projects. I got back, there were 2. And needless to say, none of them were mine. So after 6 weeks, I was laid off. And I mean, it was like kind of a relief. I didn't like the job anymore. And now that I was feeling better, I was planning to retire. I checked with I'm okay at making money. I'm not very good. I'm not a good steward of my funds. But so many years ago, God bless her, but my wife became CFO of the family. Nevertheless, I could retire. So that was my plan. And then all of a sudden I find myself back in the business again. I have a small company, Mutineer Games. 7 employees, one of which is my daughter, because she finally came to her senses and wanted to be in the family business. My son, who, you know, both his parents and his stepmom, and Travis is, God, is he headed for 40? He's headed for 40 now, which basically
and his favorite uncle.
His favorite Uncle Rick. I know you guys confab. He does talk to you.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's had a really fine career. He started out actually working for Lyle Hall. Good story. I called Lyle because he knew Travis when he was in his 20s, and I would say, you know, get off the internet, or I don't care about U2's new CD release. But Travis was there, you know, he'd come down to visit because his mom lived up in Seattle, but he'd be down for a week at a time on, you know, and so hanging around the office because that's, you know, playing whatever, and really looked up to Lyle. And so Travis decided he wanted to be in the business. And so I called Lyle and said, dude, can you hire Travis in QA? Because I actually still think that's a great place to start.
One of the best.
Yeah. It's kind of like being an editor, right? You see everything. You see the mistakes. And so, and the thing, Lyle kind of is like, you got a company, why don't you hire him? And my response was, because I don't want to have to fire my own son.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, okay, I get it. So God bless him. Lyle hired him. And that is where he, I think, worked through like Ratatouille, and they were doing all these Pixar games at Heavy Iron. Correct. And then he left there and actually joined Total Immersion in QA, and eventually became the head of QA. And then he left there and went to Activision. Remember when Value existed? Activision Value.
Yeah.
In Minnesota.
Out of Minneapolis or something. Yeah.
Yep. They were in Minnesota, and that was a great experience. And then beyond that, he went.
I think was it Riot?
That was his last gig, was at Riot.
Now he's doing Harry Potter, right?
He's doing a game for Warner Brothers that's in its, it's in its infancy. And, you know, and he was at Blizzard he worked on World of Warcraft so he's
doing fine.
He's done better than me. And I'm shocked by what they pay these guys now. Right? I mean, more money. I've had my own companies. It's more money than I pay myself. I'm paying myself like 60 grand. I mean, 60 grand a year, which is twice what I would get if I had gone on Social Security.
Yes.
And I just wanted, because, you know, quite honestly, as owners or, you know, principals in our companies, we're the biggest burden on the company. And I wanted to.
That's the new model, right? That's the new model.
Wanted to not do that.
And tell us about Mutiny. Do you have a project? Are you supporting other projects? This was bootstrapped very much off of, I get a call from a friend named Alex Mayberry. And Alex has been around. Bottom line is, he calls me. He's gotten involved with Bot's company, Probably Monsters. And I think he just opened the conversation with, wow, I wish your old company, I wish Void Alpha was still around. To which I'm like,
oh, okay, asshole, thanks. That was
Yeah.
5 years ago. But then, of course, it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
And so he explained he just needed, he needed some engineering support for a project that they needed to do a demo for Steam Days. The next day, I saw a company called Ectra, who is kind of the remnants of what would have been Blizzard North that created the original Diablo, but they had sold themselves. So people that I had worked with at Void Alpha were suddenly available. So I just made a call and said, hey, you guys want to grab some pizza? And yeah. And so we just started bumping along. So I had a bunch of talented engineers. I mean, very talented engineers. And so what we ended up doing, I set up the company really quick. So we did our first payroll, full health. I mean, we're like, oh, we're a real company. Everybody's got health benefits except me. Everybody's making good money except me.
You.
But
well, way to seize the opportunity, though. Like, I think a lot of people would have just let that pass by. You jumped on it.
Well, I kind of did it mostly an individual who's Bartholomew Moore, and he is just a brilliant engineer designer. He's somebody who, when he presents a design for something, a system or a subsystem, he does it in a way that you feel like it's math. And so he's right, because 1 + 1 = 2. He's kind of my partner. And I did it primarily because he was like, oh, I can't do it. Well, he kind of acted like, I don't think he's into it. He doesn't want to run a business, but it's like, it's easy. You can do it. And so we're doing it. And,
right.
I felt like we were going to get a year out of, and I'll start a company for a year, meaning, if it's like 3 months, no, we're not going to do the whole, it'll be more like a film production, right? Everybody just kind of comes together. We divvy up what the money is and go on our merry way. But in this case, and it hasn't been a year yet, but our contract is through October. And so things
so
are
you'll
going,
reassess in October.
and I'm not looking forward to that. We also, while we were working for them, did a project of our own, kind of based on an idea that Alex Mayberry had. And so I'm in the middle of actually hoping to free that up from them. To go try to shop it around and get completion money. I mean, it's playable right now. And the completion could be anywhere from, I don't know, 400,000. Well, depending. I could be from 400,000 to $5 million, less than $1 million. But we'll see. It's very hard. I don't really want to be in the business simply because you end up dealing with people. Okay, enough history and all this. How many times do you guys deal with people that are purely production adjacent? Meaning they've never, ever slept on Bing Gordon's couch in his office in the middle of the night because, and I'm not saying you have to be on crunch and all that. I'm just talking, they've never actually made a project.
Right.
And yet here they are making decisions that are kind of vital to us, and in a lot of cases, these people who buy services, that's what they do.
Have made a game. Right.
Yeah. We used to talk about it like the lawyers came in to make the decisions, and we were like, oh, well, that's probably not the best user experience.
Yeah. No,
and that's kind of what's going on in the industry right now all over. One of the things Gary and I talk about is the 2026 studio is different than the 2000 studio, but it's closer to the 1982 studio
very much
it is to the 2020 studio.
I still remember many, many years ago going to a ball game at Candlestick Park with Trip Hawkins because we both share.
Huge baseball fan.
He's intense on
baseball.
Yeah. I am a San Francisco Giants fan, not necessarily baseball in general. I believe he's done the thing where he's gone to every single ballpark and seen a game.
Yeah.
Anyways, we were there and it was during the daylight time. And I was like, man, Trip, you guys had it easy. One guy, two guys, 25, 30 grand, and you do a product for the Commodore 64. And he was like, well, Mark, actually, sometimes it was only $10,000 to $15,000. It's like, but that's because people dug it. That's what so my team right now, these people, they are passionate about games in a way that even I'm not, because they are just really all genres, all forms. Maybe I'm just getting old and curmudgeon-y. There's some games that I think it's because I'm not good at them. Anything, Souls-like. I mean, I know of them. I can converse about them, but I'm terrible. So I don't
You're
really.
not a big Elden Ring fan.
I did not do Elden Ring at all.
Yeah. It just
was
beats
just
you
like,
up. I can't play. I don't want
where's
to be shown I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
even worse at online. Yeah. Nothing like being owned by a 12-year-old who's then calling you, you know, whatever,
Who then
whatever
taunts you.
profane. Yes.
I'm going to pwn you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, you're
I'm sorry.
talking about something like, even with your project, this idea of how do you fund a minimal viable product forward? Like, it's one of the biggest challenges for everybody right now.
But
I think
even that, I think, might be a waste of time and money right now, because as far as I mean, Rick is gloom and doom. It's like, don't even bother. Really, it's like,
you don't need
I mean,
to. I'm not saying doom and gloom. I'm like, you don't need to do that anymore. Go launch the game.
Yeah, I mean, the idea, because it seems like most publishers, you know, the classic one, they're not interested anymore. They're not doing, they've got their own stuff. They're really the ones who are going to carry the flag of the AAA title, I think.
right.
I mean, they're the only ones who can afford.
Right.
The rest of us got to live in the $1 to $5 million world.
Even less with AI.
Yeah,
tools.
probably less. Yeah, like you're lucky if you can get that.
Yeah.
But do you see a correlation, Mark, with what you saw coming out of ABC and being a broadcast engineer to what movies happened in the 70s and 80s to be those small development teams that are going to go out? Amblin and Entertainment was 11 people when they started, right? That kind of small nut. But what drove them was 100% passion. They bootstrapped a lot. They all ate macaroni and cheese. And their payoff wasn't until 20 years later, right? That's kind of the model we're moving for games now, right?
Totally. Yes. Say, you know, I just this morning was reading a review of a book, and I forget the name. It was like, anyway, it was the story of Spielberg, Coppola, and Lucas as, you know, really a paradigm shift in the film business. And this was when we were relatively, you know, when we were in high school, that was taking place. I mean, do you know how much American Graffiti cost?
Yeah, like less than $300,000, right?
It was $75,000.
Yeah, crazy.
That's incredible.
Launched the careers of Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, Ron Howard was probably the star of that movie.
Right. Harrison
I think
Ford
that one of the guys from My
then.
Three Sons was in, anyways. And obviously, you know, and these three guys, and also other, they definitely wanted to live outside the box with that control. It was important to them. To the point, I believe that Francis was kind of the elder statesman of that group. He had been around longer and had more success, but there was a falling out, I think, between him and Lucas, because Francis he really wanted to start his studio, Zoetrope. And he was kind of leveraging his films against the studios that were distributing, because they were still distributing. I mean, we still needed studios.
Right.
And I think that for Stephen and George, they just wanted enough money to make a movie. Basically, that's what they weren't trying to create a studio. It happened. One of my biggest regrets, I'm working at ABC as an editor. I'm making $65,000 a year in 84.
That's a lot.
Yes, it was great. And that's because it was a union, and because I used a computer, which is what an edit controller was. I was suddenly at the top of the scale. Anyways, at the time, I had the opportunity to join ILM. I got offered a job as everybody came in there, a guy named Don Dow. You could look him up. Worked on a ton of things, but it was $24,000 a year. So I was about to have my son.
Yeah.
My wife was about to have I just couldn't do it. I bought a house, all that kind of stuff. But I do regret it, because a lot of those people that, they went on to work on very, very cool things. I ended up working actually with a woman named Cindy Convery, who was married to a guy named Mike McAllister, who won an Academy Award for the Temple of Doom minecart sequence.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just a brilliant guy, brilliant effects guy, and a machinist, I believe, is what is really, he could take the camera and make them do what he wanted. Sorry, a huge aside. Yes, I don't... Our business right now, in like the old way, I would just pick up the phone and call somebody I knew at EA, or pick up the phone and call somebody I knew at, God, pick one. Fox, call Michael Pohl at Fox.
Right.
See what, as your friends kind of spread out and have success. Now it's almost like, well, they want you to have an audience already, like you said, Discord with 500,000 people. Ideally, it's already shipped and you have the first year of sales, and then they may consider doing a deal for that product I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Right,
it's
you've already done the whole thing, right? So that's the difference in movies to me is if those guys had been able to have their own distribution, they would have succeeded faster. Because the distribution deals with MGM and slowed them down, and they had to now make constraints on their creativity to make decisions about getting money. That was a problem. Now, with video gaming, we can go and I tell everybody, go build your own Discord server and distribute yourself through Discord. And if you can't do that, fix the game. The problem is not discoverability or publishers or money. It's your game getting into people's hands. We're nichified beyond music. Right? There's like Norwegian folk punk metal bands that are eating and paying their mortgages and living their lives and being happy, and they're on Spotify and they go do tours, and they're just so nichified they found their audience, right?
But they're making a living at that, I assume. They're actually
by touring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how everybody's making. That's why, again, getting old and cranky, I remember when a movie cost $0.25 and a candy bar was but I don't go to many concerts anymore because I'm sorry, I went to Day on the Green where I saw, you'd see Led Zeppelin, Boston and this and that, you'd see all these bands, $20, $25.
All right, Grandpa.
I know, but now because that whole, that business model is completely turned on its head.
Well, I think user behavior is different now anyway, too. That's our biggest opportunity that people pass, I think, in publishing. User behavior has changed where I can get 35 kids to like my game, and all of a sudden organically brought me 300,000 users, right? The Roblox kids are just going to start making that happen. That's my theory. Let's see if it proves out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But how do you talk about a little bit, both of you guys, about your thoughts about monetizing? Because I love this model, right? The model sounds good. You can self-publish, you can get your own users, but can you pay everybody a salary? I mean, you're talking about eating mac and cheese. It's hard. It's hard to monetize these games because there's so many for them to choose from and so many platforms to be on now. I don't know. What are your thoughts about how you actually make a business with this without some outside support? It's hard.
Yep, I agree. I mean, you're seeing some successful indies are now starting to fund, not huge. I mean, they're not putting down millions of dollars, but they're starting to fund other indies. I'm a little.
Most of my TGO vet friends are bootstrapping it.
Really?
Right. And they're taking other jobs to go build their game on the side and go launch it. And then if they can't get enough momentum on that game, they know they're not going to be able to afford to finish making it. Right. That's
and just move
another
on to the
beautiful
next
thing
one.
is you can deliver a partial experience and understand how much money is there. Right. Maybe it goes back to the bank days where you're going to get bank loans on things. I don't know. But yeah, there is no more money to come help you pay for your creativity, just like in movies. You're a first-time movie maker coming out of Chicago, you got to go make your own movie yourself.
Yeah, with your friends, and that is the way to do it.
Going back though, I mean, one of the things, like right now, I mean, Mutineers is basically a co-dev. Right? That's what we do. I don't like being a co-dev. I feel like we offer way more value than a co-dev. And going back to my talking about the production adjacent people, and yet I go in to pitch our services and they're basically, okay, how much a man month?
They just want a rate card. Yeah. They don't care.
And I have to put on my businessman hat. I can't, as much as I want to say, fuck you. I don't need, no, it's more than, we're not just, you're $12,000 a month. First of all, I'm not going to compete with the Far East. I'm not going to be able to compete with India. Hell, I can't even compete with Europe. I personally have had not great experiences working with co-devs that are, full
time
shift
zone
of our, really far away. Let's put it that way.
Challenging.
Between a language barrier, it ends up being not as satisfying an experience. They're not vested. They don't move quickly. So
well, it's a cost. Like you said, it's a cost, right? There's a false narrative when they say juniors cost less. And I'll tell you right now, juniors cost more.
Yeah.
Loss of time from the seniors to teach them all how to do it. The work ethics are different. The culture fit, all those things. Where a senior guy, you come in, he'll spend 3 hours and do the work of 2 weeks of a junior because he knows what he's doing, right? That there's no appreciation for that, right? I think that's what the industry's starting to learn now, but it might be too late.
Maybe.
I think what you're doing is right. Go work for hire for somebody, pay for that while you make your game on the side, and then go launch it. I think that's kind of the model of things.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get to the heart of with both of you, if we can, for a second. Because Rick, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But Mark, is that the path you see for yourself? Like, are you just gonna try and launch this thing on your own? Like that's.
I would love. One of my problems is, quite honestly, mobile. I'm probably gonna, pick at Rick Neal. Because I don't have a lot of experience with mobile. I'm more of a package good, or, basically console and PC. And so the various business models of mobile, I don't know. And we could go a bunch of different ways. I would much rather work with a publisher. I'd much rather, give it, have Zynga do it. And I'll reach out and ask, even, do people, are there EAD kind of organizations now where you can take it and they'll handle that part of it?
Yes, but I think
they're not having any success.
Yeah, nobody's making traction and getting that funding because they want what Rick's talking about is they want that 6 months of data of like, well, what are users saying already? Like, what are they, is it sticky?
Well, in that case, the way we'll just go about, we'll publish it ourselves. The problem is, throwing something on Steam, hey, we're published.
Don't do that.
No.
It's not how it goes. There's a whole different way of doing it, right? That's the discovery thing that doesn't exist, but.
And you're saying, Rick, like build a community through Discord or somewhere else and have that be your sort of promotion arm as opposed to just
apparently
Discord's on the wall.
Discord's even getting into, I had a conversation with somebody how, you can make it a Discord game, which would require some rework, obviously, but I didn't see any path to monetization with that. It's more of that would make sense for a publisher to do who we're going to try to get this huge audience. We'll use it to market other titles that we have. And, it's a marketing expense, not a product development kind of effort.
I've had 2 teams have some success with it. One is all platforms, but made the game in WebGL so it can play anywhere. The game can actually launch from Discord because it's just going to instance a web browser and play the game. Still plays at 60 frames a second. No visual acuity problem, no platform issues, right? The game just plays. It's a social game, not a socialist game.
Totally different thing.
They propped up a server and they're using a monetization tool that everybody can get access to sell directly to their consumers.
And are they making
$95 for the game, all right? And they've got 5,000 people, and they're going to start building that community that way, right? And they found another team out of the Saudi cohorts is doing the same thing through Discord. Click on this thing, and they're using a fulfillment site like a Amazon site for gaming that somebody else's props up, and they sell it through that. But they're not. They all both have it listed on Steam. It's for sale on Steam. It's for sale in the Epic Store, right? They can release on all those others, but their only way to get discovery is through their Discord and their YouTube and their TikTok. And they have guys in the community on Discord that said, oh, I love your game. Can I run your TikTok? And they get that for free.
Yeah.
And that's a teenage kid, right? Doing it at night for no money because it's that's the model that I can
you see that
as
the future.
Working, right?
But it's still the proof's going to be in the pudding on whether teams can survive with it, right? Like I think that's I just don't know who to stand up as the example of that it's working, right? And you may even know more than me, Rick.
Where's the business in that? I mean,
the
it's
business
like
is you look at your Discord and say, "Can we sell 300,000 over these this year?" And how do we do that? What levers now that we have data coming in, and I can see 5,000 people on my Discord? How can I now? Where can I go get that? Who's that persona? Where can we go get that? And then before you spend $1 trying to do it, map it out.
Yeah,
I hear you.
So,
but it's hard. It's all of a sudden we're not just developers. Now we're marketing and salespeople.
Which all came, that all came for free when we were back at EA. We didn't really worry about that.
Well, not if you were Ray Toby.
Well, I was going to go back to your earlier one where you were shrink wrapping your own games. Like, maybe we're back to that.
We are back to that.
That's okay, but we lost money.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the model hasn't proven out yet that that's
No.
sustainable, is my opinion.
No. And, and is it a race to the bottom? I'm not sure.
Right.
I mean, so the thing I disliked the most about running my own development companies was biz dev. Never hired it out. I basically traded on relationships with that I had with people. I tend to, I collect people, not in an evil way. I just try to stay in touch, and I like people. I mean, that made the whole biz dev thing palatable to me.
Right.
But it's just gotten a lot harder because most of the people that we all know are either high up enough in organizations that they don't really make those kind of decisions anymore, or they're retired, or they're dead, or they've moved on to a lot of people have just gotten out of the business altogether, right? I think about Evan Robinson, right? I think he had a good career at Adobe, and then him and Sarah are just, retired and doing their thing now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of on us because we built this industry and we forgot to hire those people and teach them how to do it. But I think you're right. There's a whole generation of people that came into the industry after the 2000s that never had to be like, I'm shrink wrapping my own package. Otherwise, we're not going to eat. I got to go work at Safeway. That generation doesn't exist in our industry anymore.
Our generation has kind of given bad examples. Are you doing this because you want to be a multimillionaire, or are you doing this because you're passionate about making games?
Gaming, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, we've allowed it start. I mean, we didn't, but yeah, the MBAs took over for a period of time, and believe me, they just come in and then pretty soon, sort of leveraged buyout started taking over, selling your company. Going back to Lyle, so Lyle ran it for 20 some years successfully, I would say, did very well, sold his company to Keywords. So the day he called me, and this is the layoff. And again, we're old friends, so I didn't have any, I knew it was coming. I'm not a fool.
Right.
And he's like, hey, can we talk? Yeah. Okay. It was going to be a Thursday. Okay. Didn't make it. Okay. How about tomorrow, Friday? Then we somehow don't talk on Friday. He wants to talk on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure. And it literally was a call, such a nice guy, but it was like, hey, how about those Giants? Oh, the Warriors. It's like, dude, are you going to lay me off or what?
Yeah.
But so that occurred, and there really wasn't any hard feelings. It was time for that to happen. And then the line went dead, though. That's what hurt that's what hurt me the most, was like, why are you mad at me? What's the deal? So fine. I mean, and I got just before Thanksgiving, I texted him, hey, happy holidays. Now it's going to be Christmas time. Let's chat. I want to catch up about nothing. Finally, right around the new year, he calls me. Yeah, he got laid off the week or 2 weeks after me. So he quite honestly been off in a corner, dealing with his own crisis of everything.
Right.
And to me, so that's just an example. Yeah, selling your company is basically, you're going to be gone in, pick a time frame, 4 years.
Plan on it.
Yeah, plan on it, because you took all that money, and you look around us. I mean, it's happened everywhere. And
with the last 10 minutes we have, I want to touch on AI, get your feeling, and the sentiment is strong, but the reality is real, and the tool sets, and 3 KGO guys. I look at the tools accelerating the team and keeping them in flow, but that's not how everybody thinks about it. What's your
So I got 2 things going right now, right? I started Mutineers, and I also started Antiquarian, and we're going to do a Kickstarter. Antiquarian is a paper game company. It's let's call it a more crunchy, meaning a version of D&D. But, it's dice, role-playing. It offers, There's some problems with the current. I love D&D. I play every week with my old college friends, Little Blonde Dave, people I've known since I was 18. And so anyways, I've always wanted to be in the paper game business, and just got sucked into computers because, quite honestly, they were more exciting at the time. And it was an opportunity with a creative who has a system that I really like, and I can do the whole thing for like 25 grand. So it's not like this massive investment or risk. So it's not just a digression, even though it appears. So in the paper game business, there was a game that recently shipped that the box, I've had debates. Hey, that art looks like AI. well, it's not AI. Do you want me, what do I have to send the resume of the artist who drew it?
Yeah.
But
Yes,
there
you
was
do.
one, and there was one that was all AI. It was the box. It was a good game. It didn't sell because the consumers are voting with their
The
feet.
sentiment. Yeah.
The sentiment is so negative, and I am certainly not in a position to lead the charge on that. I think it's going to take the EAs and the Activision or the Microsofts. They'll lead the charge. I'm concerned. I've had conversations with my partner in Mutineers of, we can't compete with people spending, and they still are. The AAAs are going to be there. I mean, how much do you think GTA is going to end up costing all in? I mean, we're
$1 billion.
talking thereabouts, I think, with marketing. So we can't compete with that, and it's only going to get worse. Now, art is a hard one. I am right now using AI to give to an artist instead of Mark trying to do a written brief, marketing, whatever you want to call it, a marketing brief describing what I want, or even worse, Mark trying to draw what he wants. So I just do I work with various systems, and I come up with an image. Not it has to be this, but this is kind of what I have in my mind's eye. I think it really accelerates the process and eliminates some of the round tripping.
I do the
of
same
back and
thing.
forth.
It's better than my words at
It is.
showing my intent.
And yet, got to be careful because people are, oh, that looks like AI. So that's become a boogeyman.
But everything looks like AI, right? I can make an argument that everything is AI.
Yeah. And the idea that, AI is reaching out and basically stealing from, and I guess I'm not trying to be controversial, but, AI is stealing from all this. Isn't that what all artists do? I mean, my point is they look at artists they admire and they emulate it and they try to train to be able to do what that person did.
We used to set a look. Remember when we set a look, Gary? And on the wall would be magazine pictures that we ripped out of a magazine. And then pictures, literally, Happy Keller would take pictures of the TV. And Polaroid pictures would be on the look wall, right? Now we've moved it to Miro boards. And the only objection is you created that art not by ripping it out of a magazine. But we never went back to Condé Nast and said, hey, man, you inspired our character for Jordan in Flight, right? So we're going to give you 38% of our profits. We never said that, right? I don't understand why the sentiment, but there's no arguing with them, right? They just eventually they'll go away. The sentiment will change.
Well, I do think there are also some real hard business structures that need to be. For instance, I was working with an artist, and I'm not going to do this right now because I don't need the wrath. I can't afford the wrath of consumers or even of my own employees.
Right, because it's it's a business decision.
It's a business decision, but I'd be interested in okay, artist, create for me the master look piece of art for a character. Now, I want it so if I want to put that character on a horse or, carrying a battle axe rather than a sword, I would love to be able to use AI to do that. But when I do that, I would love a structure. You remember how photographers used to work? Oh yeah. Rick, are you buying my negative or are you just buying me in?
The master rights, or do you want just the performance rights?
And I think that's, yes. And I think
here's
that
the deal.
is a viable.
When you're the creator, when you're asking an artist, do something for me on call. I want you to make a character that looks like Homer Simpson. You own that IP. You told that artist what to do, right? The argument they're having is because I created it, I now steal your IP and I own it and you owe me every time something gets created with it. That's not real.
I don't know. Why not just, if I'm going to, hey, Rick, draw this for me. Okay, I'm going to use this as a basis for AI extension of this. And every time we use that in something other than what I paid you for, I'll give you whatever. It's like a needle drop fee.
It goes back to Peter Max and Michael Pohl using Peter Max imagery. You got to have imagery that, just like you have to have a game that already has an audience and already sold something to have something, you got to be Peter Max and have a breath before we're going to pay you royalties on any time your art shows up in the game.
I just think we need to come to some kind of, a business model that will allow artists to be artists.
Yeah.
Because, it's been so commoditized, but that given, right now I have a team of an AP and 6 engineers. That's my team. I don't have, because to me, art is become a bit of a commodity. I'll go to Sergio at CG Bot and talk to him about art.
Yeah. Of course,
I'm not going to hire
commodity.
somebody. And even designers, I'm starting to feel a little bit like this. You know, the way designers, oh, he's a designer. To me, a designer is kind of like one of the directors of the game, any more than, you know, a director should come with a project, if you know what I'm saying. It's like you don't, you know, I don't know, you don't put George Lucas in some kind of period piece.
You got to have the right person for the right game.
Right. And yet one of the things we haven't done, we started this whole industry trip with for him, it was like the recording industry. It was records, but you could also, we have never matured to what the film business has, which is a bunch of, call them whatever you want. In the end, they're, you know, call them unions, call them guilds. I don't really give a shit, but that's what they are. And they protect the people coming in, because believe me, if you hire somebody with a name, you're not paying them union maximum. You're paying them what their rate is, and their rate's whatever they and their manager. But we haven't done that where people can actually make a living. The other parts, it would be good if there was a union. It basically, because they recognize, hey, these people are out of work half the time. Half the time they're working on the Warner lot. The other half of the time, maybe they're delivering Pepsi around LA. As I'm talking about a driver, obviously. But the point is, but what happened is with the union, everything stays stable. They're still paying into their medical is being paid for. All of it. It's not like, oh my God, my entire life just got upended. And that's the way the business is right now. And
to the pioneer days, right? We did, like, you're bootstrapping yourself to make games. Maybe that's the new model. It's kind of, is it unfair? I don't know. What's fair?
And I could keep talking about this forever. We have to wrap up because I've got an 11:30.
Oh yeah, we got an 11:30 we're late for.
Oh, well, then you're late. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I seriously could go on for another half hour talking about just this topic. But Rick, why don't you wrap up things for us?
What do I have to? I'm going to wrap it up. Here, let's wrap it up. Mark, thanks for your time. I think you're such an in-depth guest that we should do part 2 with Mark Day. So
I'd be up for it.
Reschedule this for another part 2.
Nancy told me not to gossip about anybody so I don't get in trouble. So we didn't do any gossiping.
Everything is fine, and we're shipping on time, Mark.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark. This was a great conversation. Love the history. I really loved getting into what's happening now. So I'd be up for talking more about what's happening now in the industry.
Well, the one thing I'll say for me at this point, it's really nice to be running a company. I care deeply about my people. That's my main concern. But for me personally, it's not like, oh my gosh, if this goes away, I'm going to have to hit up Rick for a job.
Yeah.
Right. I am kind of admittedly, in theory, at the tail end of my career, but
it's a luxury.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. It is a luxury.
Well, you've got a lot to give.
I'm lucky I'm here.
You've given a lot to we're happy you're here. You've given a lot to the industry. You still have a lot to give. So keep doing it as long as it brings you joy, man.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Everything's fine, we're shipping on time. Everything's fine, we're shipping on time. Everything is fine, we're shipping on time. I'm hearing good things, we're shipping on time. Take some deep breaths, we're shipping on time. Let me solve that, we're shipping on time. Everything is fine.